I have a theory, and it has nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do with socioeconomic conditions. It has to do with biology, science. And I could be speaking outside of my depth of qualifications, so just to let you know, I do not have a PhD in environmental science. This is strictly an opinion. My opinion is that I think that there's a lot of violence in areas that we call the hood or in the inner city. I think it's due to pollution. Now, hear me out. I'm not talking about emissions from cars or factory pollution. I think that the drugs that people are using in these environments linger in the air for long periods of time. People keep using these drugs. I think it lingers in the air, gets into the environment. And so there are low levels of these drugs floating around in people's systems, and the people who are more sensitive to it ends up influencing their emotions and making their temper shorter. And therefore they end up just being more prone to being emotional and being violent. When I was young, back in the 80s and 90s, but the drug we used to hear about that could send people over the edge was PCP. In DC, they call it a love boat. That was the drug back then that could send somebody over the edge. And I used to hear people that could be literally high for years. Now there's a drug out there that I think is called Trip. And I don't know what it's made out of. But you have Trip, and you have nowadays we have this you have synthetic marijuana, which according to some news broadcasts I saw in 2015, in DC, 20 people went into the hospital in 1 week because of synthetic marijuana use. You have people growing their types of marijuana. From what I see on TV, it's I guess they grow it and breed it for different intensities and different reactions. So if somebody's smoking and burning that stuff, if you're in an enclosed environment, with a bunch of buildings around, and you can't get fresh air to come through to blow that stuff away, I think that stuff can build up in the environment over time, and it just starts affecting people, and it's going to affect people more who are more sensitive to it than other people. Now, if you're familiar with some of the stuff that's melanin theory, I think that's what they call it, where it says that people who have higher concentrations of melanin are more sensitive to drugs. So if you have in an inner city where you have darker skinned people like myself, or darker, who are more sensitive to chemical compounds, builds up in their system over time, and there's trace amounts of stuff in the air, that stuff could be filtering into people's, it could get into their nose and their mouth or even their skin. You can get chemicals into your skin, I have gotten sick. I didn't even know I was sick, and they caught it in the blood work that I was sick, and the doctor said, there's stuff in the environment. It gets everybody. That's why you have to come in for your checkups, because you can get something and you don't even know you have it. So I'm glad you were a good patient so we can save your life, because otherwise you would drop dead. You got poisoned, buddy. And it was this stuff that's like environmental poison. How'd I get it, Doc? You could have walked down the street and breathed in the wrong type of thing from a car. Oops. So if that type of stuff can just happen, I don't even live in the hood. I could get sick, right? Imagine if people are living in an environment where folks are smoking all types of stuff, and it's just floating in the air, floating in the air, floating in the air. And it's stuff that can cause hallucinations or stuff that can affect people's emotions. So then they're already stressed out because they don't have any money, or, they got violence, or they're being harassed or something like that. They could kill someone. Now I was looking at, and I commented on one of Dr. Boyce Watkins' videos. And in that video, he said that he relayed a story of a young man who took, I don't remember the drug. He took a drug and went on a violent spree. Does not even remember the crimes that he committed, but he committed the crimes, and now that young man is in jail for the rest of his life. He was like 19 years old. But I was thinking this theory even before I heard Dr. Watkins' story. That's someone who directly took a drug. Just imagine what could be going on behind some of these hair trigger tempers that people have sometimes that live in harsh environments. If there's a whole bunch of stuff in the air and it can't get out, it's stuck in there. You know, it could even, some of the stuff could possibly settle on the walls. They could brush up against it. It could get on their skin. It could just start influencing them for the worse. So just think about that. And if you ever notice, when you go into some parts of some of the cities and you go to, what people consider to be inner city, it doesn't feel different. It doesn't have the air doesn't have a different feel to it. And it's not something that you can really smell or touch. But doesn't it seem like it's different? It has a different vibe or feel to it. Am I the only person that's noticed that when you go into some of the hoods? It just feels strange. That's probably your subconscious mind taking in all the data that's around it and trying to tell you that there's just bad stuff in the environment. I'm not talking now, be clear, I'm not talking about you feel scared. This isn't an I feel scared type of feeling. No. This isn't I'm scared because the people look intimidating or they're looking at me wrong. I'm talking about you can just tell that something's different just if you get out of the car or if you wind down your window at the stoplight. Something seems a little odd. So take that for what it's worth. I think some of the crime that's going on is caused by the environment. And I'm not a scientist, okay? But this is just my opinion. And then if you add on to that, like I said on Dr. Boyce Watkins' page, if you got that going and then you have additives in foods that may affect people differently, prescription medications that have side effects. Some of these drugs do have mental side effects. They don't affect everyone, but they do affect some people. You've got all that stuff in your food combined with stuff that's in a bad environment where people may be smoking a lot of stuff. You've got a chemical cauldron for aggression. So, how does this relate to the martial arts? You need to know. So you need to know that this person could be acting out against you. It may not even be their fault, man. It literally may not be their fault that they're attacking you. So, while you do want to respond with force, unless you think they're trying to kill you, you don't have to try to kill them. Maybe the best thing to do might be to block, be defensive, and just evade the situation. And you never know, that person may calm down. You may have, like I have over my life, sometimes people have said, I don't know what got into me. I'm sorry, Cecil. I don't know what got into me. And you shake hands and, shake hands, give a little pound or whatever you do, and it's over. So just think about that. So also, if you're a martial artist, if you know that there's certain environments where you feel weird because you may be sensitive to stuff that you can't really detect, you should stay out of those places. And just don't always think that the attacker is the quote-unquote hardcore enemy. Unless they are. And if they are, well, they are. And that's an unfortunate fact of life that we can't do anything about. So that's just my theory on what I think is causing some of the violence. When I say environment, I don't just mean that you didn't get enough hugs as a little boy or a little girl. I literally mean that I think sometimes it's the actual biological environment. Peace.